In this lesson, we're going to look at the basics of evolution and how species change over time. So as a review, remember, we have these things called mutations, which are changes in the DNA sequence. And because they change the DNA, they can change the phenotype, they can change the traits. These things happen randomly, and in some cases, they're actually beneficial. All right, so evolution is a change in a population over time. And more specifically, it is a change in the allele frequency. In other words, how often does a certain allele show up in a population? For an example, if most people have brown hair, then the brown allele has a high frequency. And if that changes, that would be considered some type of evolution. Now, it's really important to understand individuals don't evolve. Only populations evolve. So once your DNA is set, you cannot change. All right, so now let's look at how evolution actually works. The first step is we have to have mutations, because mutations are what provide the actual raw material for evolution. They provide these new alleles. All right, so here's an example. We have a mutation that has caused this moth to have these spots on its wings. All right, and so this mutation is going to result in genetic variation, meaning that individuals in the population are different. All right, so those new alleles bring about variation. So here we have two different looking moths. Now, the genetic variation is then going to be acted on by this thing called natural selection. And natural selection simply means that some individuals are going to be more adapted than others. All right, so for example, we have these two moths. When we add in a predator like this bird that's going to eat the moth, well, in this case, the moth that has the spots, the bird thinks that those are eyes, so the bird is not as likely to eat that particular moth. So in this case, the moth that has this new allele is more adapted to the presence of the predator, and therefore the environment is going to select this allele for continuing. And so what we really mean here is that some of these individuals are going to be more likely to survive and reproduce, because that's the point of life. At least for a non-human, the point of life is to survive and have as many kids as you can. So in this case, the best adapted, which would be the one that has the eye spot looking markings on its wings, is going to be the best adapted, it's more likely to survive, and therefore it's going to be more likely to reproduce and pass along those genes to its future offspring. Now, this is going to result in a change in the population. So let's look at how this works. All right, here's our starting population. The frequency of this mutation, this new allele, is fairly low. We only have 2 out of 12 individuals that have this mutation. Now, once we allow predation to occur and nature to select the individuals that are most adapted, it turns out that nature is going to select against the individuals that do not have these spots. And so now you can see that the remaining population, 2 out of the 3 have spots. So then when they have children, now the allele frequency has changed and most of the organisms have this new allele. And so that means that there has been a change in the allele frequency and the population has evolved. So there has been a change in this population over time as a result of mutations causing adaptations that allow some individuals to survive and reproduce, pass along those mutations, and change the overall frequency of the allele in the population.